The power of love is a curious thing. Makes a one man weep, make another man sing.
Welcome back to Every Disney Movie Ever. My name is Justin. I'm watching Every Disney Movie Ever. This is the Rewatch series. Today I'm going to talk about Fantasia. Fantasia is a 1940 hybrid theatrical release. Hybrid meaning both animated and live action pieces take place in the film. It is directed by Samuel Armstrong, James Algar, Bill Roberts, Paul Satterfield, Ben Sharpstein, David D. Hand, Hamilton Lusk, Jim Handley, Ford Beebe, T. He, Norman Ferguson, and Wilfred Jackson. Samuel Armstrong is best known for his Disney work, including Dumbo, Bambi, and Snow White. James Algar is best known for the True Life Adventure series, while Paul Satterfield's only other credit is Bambi. Jim Handley's only other credit is The Reluctant Dragon. And Ford Beebe's credits include The Reluctant Dragon, Charlie and the Lonesome Cougar, and Jonico and the Kushtaka. Bill Roberts, Hamilton Lusk, T. He, and Norman Ferguson I covered in the video about Pinocchio. Ben Sharpstein and David D. Hand I covered in the video about Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And Wilfred Jackson I covered in the video about Steamboat Willie. All links will be in the description. The live-action cinematography was done by James Wong Howe, and he's best known for HUD, The Rose Tattoo, Seconds, and The Old Man in the Sea. Animation supervisors include Art Babbitt, Norman Ferguson, Ollie Johnston, Ward Kimball, Eric Larson, Joshua Meter, Fred Moore, Wolfgang Reitherman, Don Towsley, and Bill Teitla. Art, Norman, Ward, Eric, Fred, and Bill I all covered in the video about Pinocchio. The link will be in the description. Ollie Johnston is best known for The Iron Giant and his Disney work. He is one of Disney's 9 old men, so he's worked on all of the classics, as well as The Incredibles and Mary Poppins. Don Towsley is best known for his Disney work, Pinocchio, Dumbo, This, etc. The music is conducted and arranged by Leopold Stokowski. He's also the conductor that's on screen. That is actually Leopold Stokowski. There is a version of Fantasia out there in the universe that has all re-recorded audio with Irwin Coastal conducting and arranging, but most versions out there that people own, or any version that you're probably going to be seeing from now until forever, is Leopold Stokowski's original arranged audio. Story directors include Joe Grant and Dick Heumer, both known for their Disney work, Dumbo, Alice in Wonderland, This, etc. The film stars Leopold Stokowski, Deems Taylor, and Walt Disney. Leopold Stokowski is the conductor on screen as well as the actual conductor. He's playing himself. He's not like some character. And he's best known for Dead or Alive, The Great Beauty, and both Fantasias. Deems Taylor is the narrator. You also see him on screen. He basically tells you everything you're about to see before you see it. We will discuss that later. And he is best known for Janice Meredith, The Hard-Boiled Canary, Barber of Seville, and This. Walt Disney plays Mickey Mouse's voice. And yes, Mickey Mouse's voice is in the movie. Some people forget, including myself. And that is Walt Disney doing his voice, and y'all know what Walt Disney is best known for. Because of the way the movie is structured, my video is going to be structured a little bit differently. First and foremost, I'm going to cover the movie as a whole through its entire filmmaking process. Pre-production, production, release and reception, etc. And then I'm going to break the movie down into its segments, like their own movies. Let's get started. This all began because Walt felt Mickey's popularity was dwindling and he wanted to create a short to The Sorcerer's Apprentice. It was originally only supposed to be The Sorcerer's Apprentice, just a short. And then the budget for The Sorcerer's Apprentice exceeded $125,000 and everyone was like, this is way too much. We've never spent this much on a short. This is ridiculous. So then Walt saw it as an opportunity to make a concert-like film. He had a chance meeting with Leopold Stokowski and said how he would love if Leopold and the Philadelphia Orchestra would come and arrange the music for the film, and Leopold said he would do it for nothing, and then he renegotiated and it became a concert-like film experience idea. Well into the pre-production and development process, they had dwindled down the number of songs they had been wanting to choose from, and so they decided to hold a 2.5-hour concert where they had a bunch of different classical music played as well as a rough Sorcerer's Apprentice shown, and the audience reaction was very positive, and they narrowed it down to 9 pieces of music that they were going to put into the film. But then soon after that, when animating had begun, Clair de Lune by Debussy was cut from the movie. I'm really sad about that because Clair de Lune's really pretty, but the working title for the film was the concert feature or musical feature, and someone asked if they could have a different title, so Stuart Buchanan actually held a studio-wide contest, and the name that won was Fantasia. Over 1,000 artists and technicians worked on this film, creating 500 plus animated characters. They recorded the soundtrack at the Academy of Music using 33 different microphones all around the room, and Disney and the RCA collaborated to create Fantasound. Pretty sure this is the only movie released with Fantasound, but it was monumental in the sound industry and evolution of sound for film. It is a stereophonic surround sound system that uses 4 lines of audio, 3 for left, center, and right of the stage, and a 4th one to be the control. And there was also a gain device created. If you want to learn more about Fantasound, please look it up, because I can barely understand the technical specs of it all. So sitting here and relaying it all to you, I will be just as confused. So all I know is it was a more advanced version of sound that really filled the entire auditorium instead of the sound just coming from behind the projector. So this used 2 projectors and speakers around the stage. Like, it was kind of sort of one of the first surround sound situations. And it was a big deal. And if you want to learn more about Fantasound, I highly encourage you to. But it was a really big process to show the movie with Fantasound, because every place they released the movie at, they had to set up and break down Fantasound, and that's no easy task. The film at its initial release was 2 hours and 5 minutes, which was considered extremely long. Obviously now that's an actually average film length, but at the time that was really long. It had a roadshow release, meaning it was released in like Broadway theaters. I'm assuming that's what that means, because that's what it read like, because it had a 57 long week run in the Broadway theater in New York City, and it had a 39-week run at Carthy Circle, and it was released in 11 other cities in theaters like that. Mind you, they had to set up Fantasound, so a lot of money was going into that. The budget for the film was $2.28 million, and it made $1.3 million by April of 1941. That's not good. That is a loss. This is attributed to having to set up Fantasound, theater rentals, not being able to distribute in Europe because of the war, etc. In 1942, Ben Sharpstein and Ed Plum edited the film down to 1 hour and 20 minutes. Walt had no part in that because he just couldn't. He couldn't bring himself to cut that much out of the movie. And then in 1946, the film was cut to 1 hour and 55 minutes, so that kind of became standard, though the version I watched was 2 hours and 5 minutes, just so everybody knows. I'll tell you why in a second. In 1956, they had to transfer the sound because their sound was starting to deteriorate, and they had to like remaster it, whole shebang. In 1969, the film finally started to make a profit because they advertised it as a psychedelic experience. And teens loved it, and they had thought the animators had been on something when they were making it, which is not the case. In 1995, it was restored to its original version completely, except for the racial stereotyping, which was removed in 1969 and has been removed since the version I watched was censored. We will talk about it when we get to that section of the film. But in 1995, when it was released to its original, remastered, restored, a wonderful version, it made $25 million. The initial criticism for this film was incredible. People thought it was magnificent. They thought it was a historical landmark. They thought the film was courageous. The only real negative reviews they got were from the classical music community, because they didn't like the way Stokowski arranged the very famous classical songs. And that's, you know what? Good. I mean, I feel you. I get it. Cool. It has a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes. This film is very well loved and very highly critically acclaimed. The film won 2 honorary Academy Awards, the first being for technological advancement in sound, and the second directly to Stokowski for creating a new visualized music art form. The film was selected for preservation in 1990. A lot of controversy surrounds the film. The racial stereotyping has been removed. Kind of. We will discuss, like I said. And then the Philadelphia Orchestra sued Disney because they wanted the rights to the music they had recorded. They settled out of court, and then Boozy and Hawks sued Disney because they thought Disney didn't have the right to publish the Rite of Spring song, kind of. And they lost because Disney's original licensing agreement with the people who owned the Rite of Spring included video release. Sequels. Many sequels. In 1980, Wolfgang Reitherman began a sequel called Musicana. but shelved it for Mickey's Christmas Carol. And then Fantasia 2000 began work in 1990 with 7 new segments. And then a third one had begun production in 2002, but was shelved, kind of, for good-o. And then live-action adaptations include The Sorcerer's Apprentice, released in 2010, The Nutcracker and the Four Realms, released in 2018, and a Night on Bald Mountain live-action adaptation was announced in 2015. I couldn't find really any other information on that, so that'd be kind of cool. Just saying. There are a lot of parodies and spin-offs. Warner Brothers, Simpsons, BBC, and Once Upon a Time made many references to The Hat and The Sorcerer's Apprentice, as well as Chernabog. As I mentioned earlier, Claire de Lune was originally supposed to be a segment of the film, but they cut it. It was going to be 2 great white herons flying around a moonlit night, and it was supposed to be much more about the backgrounds than it was supposed to be about the great white herons. Now let's look at each segment. Toccata and Fugue in D minor by Bach was released in 1704. Oscar Fischinger, a German artist, was brought in to help create experimental animations, and Walt hated them, so Oscar left. But Deems Taylor introduces the number and then introduces exactly what you're about to see, and it's really frustrating. I hate that Deems tells you exactly what you're about to see. I don't mind him introducing the number so much, but telling me exactly what I'm about to see, I just want to watch it. Let me watch it. Anyway, the animations that accompany this number are experimental. They're fun, different instrument animations inside the sky, and just sky animations in general, and my favorite being the falling stars. That's kind of how I would describe that animation. But personally, I have always considered this animation segment to be the weakest, because it's the most boring. In my opinion, the song is iconic. Everyone knows this song. It's really famous for a reason. And I love the song. I own the song. The song is playing because it's not copyrighted. But the animations don't tell a story, and that's like, they're beautiful. They are stunning animations. But after 15 minutes, you get a little bored of that over and over again. But the falling stars are the most beautiful part of that animated sequence, in my opinion. And the song is amazing, obviously. But in my opinion, it's the weakest part of the film. The Nutcracker Suite is actually a selection of songs from the ballet written by Tchaikovsky. He selected the songs for the Nutcracker Suite. It is still Tchaikovsky's selection. He picked what he thought were the best. It was released about 1892. Art Babbitt used the sheet music pinned next to his desk to help animate along with the melody, and he also had live-action footage of dancers to reference. The animations that accompany the Nutcracker Suite, and it's 6 different songs? 4 different songs? It's 4 or 6 different melodies going on, were fairies, mushrooms, fish, seasons changing, but the seasons changing kind of circles back to the fairies. The fairies are stunning. Them changing the seasons is easily my favorite part of this entire segment. Not the film. The segment. The mushrooms, I couldn't help but notice that I think they are offensively Asianly drawn, because it's called the Asian dance in the Nutcracker. And I think the mushrooms are supposed to have like slits for eyes, and that's... We're not going to touch that. It's bad. And then the seasons changing was my favorite, specifically the winter fairies, bringing in winter and ice skating and creating the ice. It was just so breathtakingly, beautifully animated. The fish are, for some reason, sexy. I don't know what the whole thing is with Walt and all of them making fish sexy, but like Cleo and Pinocchio was sexy. Like, I don't think she's like, but like drawn to be like sultry and seductive kind of. And the fish scene was definitely like, ooh, kind of lure, but it was animated beautifully, hands down. It's a beautiful segment. The Sorcerer's Apprentice is easily the best part of this film and easily the most famous part of this film. It has transcended time. I mean, the hat is everywhere. It is Mickey's hat. It is the sorcerer's hat. Everyone knows it. just is. You know what I mean? It is based off a poem written by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Goethe is a very famous poet. In 1797 is when it was published and released. I'm not going to compare the short to the original tale because it is exactly the same. Exactly the same story, because the Sorcerer's Apprentice musical piece by Paul Dukas, released in 1897, was inspired by the poem and went along with kind of the feel of the poem. So the animators and storytellers didn't want to veer from that story because it goes so well with the musical piece, and Walt was inspired by both the musical piece and the poem to create this short, etc. The short is iconic. Mickey is amazing. He was redesigned for this short. He was given eyeballs with actual pupils instead of just the black. Now he had whites with black. He had whites with pupils. Right. For those of you who don't know, Yensid, the sorcerer, his name is Yensid, if you didn't know that. And then further, if you didn't know, Yensid is Disney backwards. That's fun. We love that. And the animation is stunning. It is absolutely stunning. The lighting, the fade from black and white to color, just, oh, it's so good. This entire sequence is incredible. And then just after this, Mickey talks to Leopold, and Walt Disney is doing the voice of Mickey Mouse. The Rite of Spring by Stravinsky was released in 1913, and the original ballet kind of was inspired by pagan rituals. Like primitive ones where they would dance and then choose a sacrificial victim, and then the victim would dance themselves to death. So, I don't know, okay? The animation sequence follows a story of evolution from the first single-celled organism to the dinosaur's demise. It's actually very good. I really like this sequence. They used scientists as advisors on this segment, so they talked about evolution and really learned how life kept going. And at this time, the theory for the dinosaurs was a dust bowl killed them all, and tar pits, which is true. Tar pits did exist, and there are still some active ones in LA. Go see them right outside of LACMA. La Brea tar pits, you're welcome. But there was no asteroid in this movie, so I don't know if the asteroid is the actual theory or the asteroid theory came later or what. But they weren't killed by an asteroid. They were killed by a drought, a dust bowl. There was no water. The earth split. Pangea. So it was really fascinating to watch. Also, Don Bluth definitely got Land Before Time from this. This dinosaur sequence is Land Before Time with a different dinosaur dying by the T-Rex's hands. It's a good little sequence. I love it a lot. After the Rite of Spring is the intermission, where the band kind of plays like a jazzy little improv. They have some fun, and we meet the soundtrack. I had no recollection of meeting the soundtrack, and I watched this movie 2.5-ish years ago. So I don't know why I have zero recollection of the soundtrack. It's a cute little part. It's fine, but I could live without it. I really, really could live without it. This is also the moment I realized that this movie, in a live setting, if I had actually been out to the orchestra, I would have loved it. It would be such an amazing experience. But sitting at home watching it as a movie, it's definitely not nearly as fun of an experience. It's yeah, okay, there's a bunch of music I own and listen to, but I don't need the anime. Hard to explain, but you get it. You understand. I feel in a live setting, which does exist, Fantasia Live is a thing, would be so awesome. But sitting at home watching it, not as enjoyable for me. I'd much rather just listen to the songs. Pastoral Symphony by Beethoven, released in 1808, is also his 6th symphony. It's Symphony number 6. Lots of S's, my goodness. This is the problematic sequence. This is the animated sequence that had all the problems, and arguably still does. It follows Mount Olympus creatures like centaurs, centaurettes. Didn't know there was a female name for centaurs. Cupids and, fauns and Pegasus's family, and then Zeus messes with all of them, and the god of wine, and there's a lot of different creatures going on, a lot of flirting. Lots going on. So first and foremost, I have to point out the phallic rocks, okay? Like, I know maybe it wasn't done on purpose, but like, the rocks are phallic. Like, it's literally just 20 seconds of phallic rocks. So that's kind of really in your face there for a second. And then this is the segment that had the racial stereotyping. It had centaurs of color, if you will, centaurettes of color, if you will, polishing and cleaning and brushing the Caucasian centaurettes' hair and hooves. Not great. That's the part that is censored out. They also, originally, I guess in the very original animations before the movie was released, the centaurs were bare-breasted, but censorship was like, put some like garlands around their boobs, please. So we would have had boobs flying around, which like free the nip, whatever. I don't care about that. But I care very much about the colored centaurs. Although, like, why would you, why? Don't understand why that would even be part of it, but it was cut out, except for, I noticed, when the god of wine is walking out to be served by all the centaurs and centaurettes, he is being accompanied by 2 centaurettes of color. They're feeding him grapes and wine. They are not in like a lowly down position, but still in a serving position, just saying. Just saying. And then Zeus really messes with all of them. There's just a lot going on in this segment that is like, what's happening? I don't know. It's like a fun story. My favorite part being like the 2 lonely centaurs being brought together by the cupids. Like everyone gets one, and then like there's a lonely centaurette and a lonely centaur, and the cupids like bring them together, and that's like the cutest part. And then Zeus messing with them is really funny. Like, that would be Zeus. Zeus would do that because he's Zeus. So that part's really funny, but otherwise, this segment's got a lot of issues. Dance of the Hours by Ponchielli was released in 1876, and this segment is really just a bunch of dancing animals. It tells a fun little story that I actually quite enjoy, but it's really just a bunch of dancing animals, first starting with ostriches? That's what, yeah, ostriches. I was gonna say emu, but it's definitely an ostrich. Ostriches, which I don't really care about, and then the hippos come. And I love the main hippo in the yellow. I said that in my original video, which we will discuss, but I loved the hippo, and I really loved that the hippo and the alligator like flirt and fall in love and dance. The elephants dab, if anyone cares, the elephants dab. It's a fun little sequence, and then when they all come in and dance and they like wreck the stadium, it's really fun. It's a good, fun little sequence. I have really nothing else to say about it. Night on Bald Mountain by Mussorgsky, released in 1867, is based on the story of St. John's Eve, which goes like this. A man wishes to be with a woman, so he meets with a man in his village rumored to be the devil. He then meets with a witch who will give him lots of gold, but only once he decapitates a child. At first he doesn't want to, but in a fit of uncertainty he does, and then sleeps for 2 days. He wakes to his gold, but without the memory of killing the child. He marries the woman. The man descends into madness, feeling he has forgotten something, and the wife brings the witch home. The man remembers, and the boy he killed appears covered in blood. The man disappears into ash, and the devil takes him. After this, the devil keeps returning to the town, or so the legend goes. This entire segment is technically combined with Ave Maria by Schubert, released in 1825, but I will be treating it a little bit separately, but it is part of the same storyline and segment. It doesn't have like Deems introducing Ave Maria. It is part of the same story. This animated segment is amazing. It is my second favorite after The Sorcerer's Apprentice because of the chilling story that is told. Chernobog appears on the mountain and starts taking souls. A specific section gave me goosebumps. He's taking souls and they are traveling through a noose up to him, and it gave me goosebumps. Seeing like the ghost skeletons traveling through a noose, I got the goosebumpies. Okay, the goosebumpies. And Chernobog himself is obviously horrifying, and I feel he was definitely inspiration for the Horned King in the Black Cauldron. Chernobog is stopped when Ave Maria begins. It hums in flashes of white and it ceases Chernobog collecting the souls, and the souls get to go back to where they belong. And Chernobog turns back into the top of the mountain, and then it becomes very beautiful. Ave Maria by Schubert, not Bach, Schubert. The Ave Maria we all know. Ave Maria, it's playing. Was released in 1825, and it is based off a piece of The Lady in the Lake by Walter Scott, released in 1810. I will not be talking about the entire story of The Lady of the Lake because the song itself doesn't encapsulate the story. It is supposed to take place at one point in the story. Ellen and her father are hiding in a goblin's home, and Ellen prays to the Virgin Mary, and the song, Ave Maria, is supposed to be her prayer. Very powerful, very beautiful song. We love that. The animation is also stunning. It's supposed to be the breath of freshness and back to beauty and normality after this horrifying, shocking moment. That was Chernobog and Night on Bald Mountain. And that is the end of Fantasia. In the original video, I discussed how boring the movie was, how boring I thought the movie was, how I thought it was less boring now, but was still boring. Sorcerer's Apprentice was my favorite part. The Dancing Hippo was my second favorite part. Not a lot of detail. Now, after researching it like I did, watching it with the detail I did, I can say with much greater appreciation that the film is extraordinary. The film is wonderful. The first segment is still my least favorite segment in the entire film, which makes it so hard to enjoy watching, because when you start with your least favorite, it really throws you off from being able to enjoy the rest. But because I watched it in such depth this time, I have a much greater appreciation for Fantasia and everything it stands for, and I will definitely say I enjoyed it much more this time than I have in the past. Sorcerer's Apprentice is still my favorite part. The Dancing Hippo is still another favorite part. I loved Night on Bald Mountain, and I used to never love that. The Ave Maria part's fine, but Night on Bald Mountain is amazing. The animation is incredible. It's a great story. Mount Olympus exists. That's a segment that exists. It's so long. It feels so long. Mount Olympus is a very lengthy segment. But all in all, I enjoyed it. It's still not my favorite Disney animated classic. It never will be. There's just something about it that can't bring me to full enjoyment. I think I would love this as a live orchestra experience much more than as a film experience. That's just my opinion. But I did like it a lot more than I have in the past, so I think I'm going to give it 7 broomsticks out of 10. Our original movie count is, and obviously, Parental and Craig Count I'm not keeping track of in the rewatch series. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to keep up with what movie I'm watching when, follow me on Instagram or Twitter, and you can find out what movie I'm watching when. I put up videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Until next time, comment, like, subscribe, but not sure who you are, so you do, and don't be, maybe Zeus. Zeus was kind of a turd. Follow the rules, Mickey. I'm looking at you. Don't be Chernobog about it, obviously. There's a couple people to not be about it, but classical music is great. Definitely listen to more classical music. Mussorgsky. Oh my god. Okay. By Mussorgsky. Night on Bald Mountain by Mussorgsky. It's such a hard name. Okay. Night on Bald Mountain by Mussorgsky. My voice cracked. Night on Bald Mountain by Mussorgsky. Night on Bald Mountain by Mussorgsky, 1867. Okay. Night on Bald Mountain by oh my god.